I thought it would be fun to take you with me on my interfaith journey of creating a musical and to key you in and to sort of take you behind the scenes so that you could appreciate what does it mean to take a musical from page to stage. And even before that, what does it mean to take a musical from essence to the page? How do we even get there? Most of you who know me know that I experience what I like to call a cosmic download. Some people might roll their eyes at that, but truthfully, I have no other way to explain it because I have been a documentary filmmaker and an author, journalist for most of my life, for 40 years. And then I became involved in interfaith engagement and activism and leadership. And I became involved in the interfaith movement even before I knew there was a movement. I just felt naturally drawn to that. And I met people along the way who felt the same. And so we created interfaith activities. And when people would say to us, who organized this? We would look at each other and we would answer, God. And then they would say, no, 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 really. And then we look at each other and we'd say, no, really, God. So the first song that came out was in about 2014. I've had some training in music, but I never considered myself a composer or a musician, actually. And the very first words were, what if when you awoke you were wearing a stranger's shoes? What if when you awoke you shared your enemy's extremist views? What if when you awoke you think in color, not black and white? What if when you awoke you could imagine not being right? And then the next line, the chorus, is what I call the, in a nutshell, the essence, the heart and soul of the musical, because it asks the question, which hopefully gets answered during the musical. And it's the question that still stays with everyone when they leave the theater. And that is, and this is the chorus, what if, what if, what if we all could see the beauty of one expanding humanity? What if? And I think the last 10 years, a lot of us have been in shock because of what is going on in terms of gender fluidity, in terms of now 20% of the population in America is spiritual but not religious, in terms of upheaval on the campuses, in terms of wars around the world. And we're all trying to figure all this out and who we are, and COVID and 2 years in captivity, in a way, in captivity. The greatest disease that the general surgeon of our country has mentioned is the feeling of alienation and loneliness. So this is all new for us. But when I started writing the musical, I did it in reverse, which I was told. I didn't know. I didn't know any better. The songs came out. And then when I had all these songs and I shared the songs with friends, they all said, wow, that's a musical. And I thought, a musical? And then I thought, well, I've never written a musical. How do you write a musical? So I went to musical boot camp. And later I'm going to share a video from that part. But I was told before I even went to boot camp, what I started doing was, because at the time I just considered this music from the soul of the cosmos through my soul to people who would resonate with it. And so I realized that I had to record the songs. And so the first step for me was in finding wonderful singers who, because I had no money, I had not raised any money for this project at all, didn't even think I was going to have a project, who would be willing to record the songs for me in the studio.
The world says no, we're really just one giant beating heart.
God bless the ones, God bless the ones ones who grease the wheels of fear and doubt. God bless the ones, God bless the ones this song is all about.
I don't make decisions to fit majority view. I don't trust religions that keep me far from you. I have inner visions, and trust me, you do too. Because I'm a transcendent, independent, First Amendment freelance mystic.
They warn us of decay when something fishy smells. Yes, there is something to be said for infidels.
Why can't science and religion be friends? Put aside old feuds and vow to make amends. Why can't science and religion agree to work hand in hand for all humanity?
I presented it to the Salt Lake City Parliament of the World's Religions, but I have to tell you, a little incident happened there that was very unnerving to me, and that was that I came there not having anybody to sing my songs professionally, and I didn't have a pianist. And it turned out that the first people I met when I was setting up my booth was a pianist and singers. They happened to be next to me. So I thought, oh my God, God is on my side. So they agreed to come and perform for a workshop I was putting on. So I went to the workshop a half hour before I was supposed to be there with everybody to perform. And a lot of people were coming. And it was a big moment for me because I was presenting the music for the first time to colleagues from around the world. And when I got into the room, I noticed there was no piano. And I had been promised a grand piano for the pianist, who was a professional concert pianist, right? So I went out to the hallway. I just really didn't know what to do. And I checked with the technicians, and they took me to the back room to an old upright piano that was so decrepit, there was just no way I could have used it. And then they said, well, you can play the music, but the remote control doesn't allow you to stop. You have to go through all the music. I said, well, I can't do that. I can only play certain songs. So I really didn't know what to do. And then suddenly, Brian Savage, who was one of the Parliament representatives, came by, and I told him my problem. And now it's like 20 minutes before. And I said, where is the piano? And he said, well, I don't know what to say. I'll help you, but I can't promise anything. But I'll do my best. So I'm in the room. Now I have an audience of, 75 people. And I get a call from him saying the piano is on its way. And I tell the audience, ladies and gentlemen, not only are you going to hear music from the Interfaith musical, you are going to witness a miracle, because this is how God works. So about 5 minutes later, we heard the creaking of a metal door, those roll-up metal doors, and the door goes up and everybody's totally silent, looking over there, and two men wheel out a grand piano on its side, right? And the whole audience gets up and starts applauding. And the two men who were wheeling it out had no idea. They'd never been greeted like that before. And I said, it's a miracle. You're witnessing a miracle. So during the course of the conference, I was also invited to perform on one of the open stages. So the next video I want to show you is of one of the singers that I encountered on that first day by accident, right? In quotes, by accident, who got on the stage and sang, which is now what has become the theme song of Meet Me There. And that's also part of this evolution, is that the musical has changed names several times, but it's still the same musical. You'll see in front of you a curtain, which on it is actually a mural, and it shows people from many, many different faiths practicing their ritual. The Muslims on the ground in prayer, the Jews carrying the Torah, the Buddhists meditating, the Hindus putting garlands around Ganesh, anything that you can think of, which will remind you immediately of
another faith, another way to approach God. An opportunity for the entire interfaith community to be able to see themselves reflected in a way that is fun, because if you're not going to have fun, we don't want to do this, right? Joyous, celebrating our religious diversity, and yet with enough serious moments in it so that we have a chance to really look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we being respectful? Are we being open? Are we being true? Are we authentic?
Come, come, don't delay. This is the promise of a new day. Come right this way. The promise of a brand new day. The promise of a brand new day.
What happened next was I got a huge positive response from the people at the Parliament in 2015. And people made donations, and the most frequent comment I got, even from the technicians who helped me play the music, they would all say, I can see this on Broadway. And I did an experiment with the people, which I've continued doing because I think it helps. If we want to manifest something in the universe, and I know the New Thought community, really, they are great advocates of this. They tell you, you need to imagine it complete, right? And so it is, right? It's done. And so I would ask the audience, when they would say that to me, I can see it on Broadway, I'd say, okay, close your eyes, everybody. Imagine you're sitting in the orchestra section on opening night, and you hear the first strains of music, and then you open your eyes and you look and you see the curtain is rising, and now look down and see what you're wearing. And then I said, how many of you can see what you're wearing? Raise your hand. And little by little, everybody started, especially the women. It took them a while to go through their closet, but afterwards they raised their hand. And I said, you have just helped manifest the musical. Because if you can imagine yourselves there, if you can hear the opening strains of music, if you can see the curtain go up and you can see yourself in the picture wearing your most glamorous clothing, right? Then you know the musical is going to happen. So that's only part of it, right? That's in your thought process. But what about how does it still go from being albums to a musical on the stage? So the next step for me was very serendipitous, because I was at the Pico Union Project near downtown LA. A friend and actually more of a longtime acquaintance, a very wonderful musician, Craig Taubman, had purchased an old synagogue from the late 1800s that had been transformed. It was a synagogue, it became a church, and it actually became the home of the first mosque in Los Angeles. And then a Korean church had it on Sundays, the mosque had it on Fridays, and Saturday there was a Jewish community. And in this beautiful place, it had a stage and auditorium. And I had given him the CD for the musical, and I didn't hear from him for months. And I thought, he probably didn't like it. And one day I was there for an event, not my event, for one of his events, and he came and sat behind me, and he said, Ruth, I didn't listen to your music for a long time because I was afraid it might be bad. And then what would I say to you? Because nobody knew me as a musician, right? They knew I was a journalist and filmmaker. Nobody was a musician. He said, but I got to tell you, it was great. And the production values and everything, it was great. So listen, if you want, I'm going to give you my theater for one night. So you need to know, usually that costs around $4,000 to rent, right? Bring your best people and put on a show. So I found wonderful singers, and this was part of the important aspect of the musical that I wanted to convey on the stage that we have not seen until now. Occasionally, we will see ethnic productions, an all Korean production they had on Broadway not long ago. You'll see Japanese influence productions. You'll see racial productions, all Black and so forth. But what we haven't really seen, and what I was hoping to achieve, was something that really reflected all of us. And so I didn't want just singers to be on the stage. I wanted singers of particular ethnicities and backgrounds that when they sang the words, they would be singing about themselves. I found a wonderful Latina singer who told me that when she heard the words she was supposed to sing, and that was spiritual but not religious, she sat and sobbed. And she said, "This is me. I could be saying these words." And then I found a Chinese American rapper, a very well-known rapper, who at first turned me down. And then I sat and talked to him. And after 10 minutes of my telling him why he should be part of the production, he said, "I got it. Okay." And then he found another Chinese American singer, and together the two of them sang a song, "It's Not a Game," about the environment, which you will hear later on in today's program. Then I had an Israeli singer, and I had an African American man who had been in the Agape choir and who was so excited about being part of this. So, and then I had a white Christian woman. And so just by looking at the people on the stage, there was already a message, right? And I wanted that to be really, really an intimate, intricate part of the show. So I'm going to show you now. So, get comfortable. I'm going to show you the show I put on at the Pico Union Project in the auditorium of the man who was afraid to listen to my music and then told me it was fabulous.
This is hallowed ground. People of many faiths come here all the time. People of many faiths helped to create this. They were all dreamers, and I believe that all of us are dreamers. And we have a special blessing in Hebrew whenever there is a milestone. The translation is, "We praise you, Master of creation, fountain of life, for giving us the breath of life, for guiding us and bringing us to this special, unique, extraordinary moment in our lives." Why this musical? The first song, and that's the first song you're going to hear tonight, "What If When You Woke," was born out of a walk, a daily walk, in my neighborhood in Culver City. And during the walk, I suddenly started hearing words in my head and music. By the time I got home, I had a song, and I called my friends Deborah and Andre, and I said, "Hey, I just wrote this song." And they said, "Oh, how come?" And I said, "I don't know." And then another day or so would pass, and another song would come out, and another song. And I started sharing these songs with my good friend Yuval Ron, who is a composer, musician. And I would go to their house for Friday night dinner, and I would sing the latest song, and their kids would start singing the melody with me. And after a while, Yuval said to me, he's a serious musician, and he's won an Academy Award for music that he composed. He said, "Ruth, you have a musical there." I said, "I do?" He said, "Mm-hmm, you do." By then, I had written 30 songs. But why this particular kind of music, and why me? That was
Why not?
the question. Right? Well, why this particular kind of music? For 30 years, I've worked in the interfaith community. I've worked with people from many, many different backgrounds, ethnic, racial, religious, philosophical. And so I love the fact that there were so many different people in the world, that we are so diverse. I wanted to celebrate that. Why, in particular, me? It took me a while to figure that out. But I understood that the Holy One, the divine source, was not happy with the way we were cohabiting this world, and was not happy with the way we were taking care of the world. And so if this music was going to come through anyone, it would have to be someone that loved many people, and that would want to make sure that while we are here, we would have a chance to appreciate one another. And I'm just going to sing the very first verse of the very first song that I wrote for this musical, and then I'm going to introduce the cast to sing it for you properly. These are the first words that came out, and I think that they underline and emphasize the entire musical and why you're all here tonight. And this is what they were. What if, when you awoke, you were wearing a stranger's shoes? What if, when you awoke, you shared your enemy's extremist views? What if, when you awoke, you think in color, not black and white? What if, when you awoke, you could imagine not being right? What if we all could see the beauty of one expanding humanity? Wow. Okay, come up and sing it for them.
What if, when you awoke, you were wearing a stranger's shoes? What if, when you awoke, you shared your enemy's extremist views? What if, when you awoke, you think in color, not black and white? What if, when you awoke, you could imagine not being right? What if we all could see the beauty of one expanding humanity?
What moments could recite a Buddhist mantra and feel at ease? What if Muslims could admire a Hindu's tantric expertise? What if Jews could tell the difference between Peter, Paul, and Mark, and the faithful would confess that they too fear the dark? What if we all could see the beauty of one expanding humanity?
What if Hindus could be well versed in secular humanity? What if Jains could learn the basics of Wiccan philosophy? What if Baptists from the South could be charmed by Celtic lore? And atheists could agree that religion is not a bore?
What if we all could see the beauty of one expanding humanity?
What if witnesses of Jehovah could quote upon a shah? What if lyrics would grant the existence of one or many gods? What if Sikhs agreed to master a few Gregorian chants? What if wandering paths?
What if we all could see the beauty of one expanding humanity?
What if, when we awoke, we could practice empathy? that God exists. I don't need good karma to know that life persists. I don't need a mantra to lead me to my bliss. Because I'm a transcendent, independent, First Amendment, freelance mystic. I don't need quotations to know what's right from wrong. I don't need notations to help me find my song. I don't need locations to chart where I belong. Because I'm a transcendent, independent, First Amendment, freelance mystic. I'm spiritual, but not religious.
Oh my God, she's delirious.
I'm spiritual, but not religious.
Oh my God, she can't be serious.
I don't make decisions to fit majority view. I don't trust religions that keep me far from you. I have inner visions, and trust me, you do too. Because I'm a transcendent, independent, First Amendment, freelance mystic. Oh, I don't need confessing because you have complaints. I don't need a blessing from ancient holy saints. You should stop obsessing if I'm pure or if I'm ain't. Because I'm a transcendent, independent, First Amendment, freelance mystic. I'm spiritual, but not religious.
Oh my God, she's delirious.
I'm spiritual, but not delirious.
Oh my God, she can't be serious.
I'm serious, but not delirious. I'm spiritual, but not religious. My abilities are prodigious. I'm a transcendent, independent, First Amendment, freelance mystic.
I'm a Buju. I'm Buddhist and I'm Jewish. I'm a Buju. I choose only one when you can choose two. Forget the pros and cons. I'm a Buju. I emulate the Buddha and his worldview. I like to meditate. I'm into RPU. I agonize all day. A true Jew.
I'm a Jufi. I'm Jewish and I'm also Muslim Sufi. I'm probably asking how can that be? Well, let's just say it's spiritual alchemy. I'm a Jufi. I fast on Ramadan and then Yom Kippur. I pray the Ramadan and I do zikr. Whichever one I can finish quicker.
I'm a Hindu. I'm Hindu and I'm Jewish. I'm a Hindu. I'm loyal to my rabbi and my guru. I study ancient Sanskrit and then Hebrew. I'm a Hindu. And when I told my mother, she went bonkers. She said, "You're not from India, you're from Yonkers."
Devotion of the heart is what conquers. Devotion of the heart.
story about, people always say, what really happens in a musical? Very briefly, Maya, a woman who was widowed early at 42 because her journalist husband was killed in a conflict in the Middle East, suddenly discovers that their only child, Tamar, 19 years old, is in love with a Native American man. She's devastated. It's difficult. And there are people today who are watching their children follow a new philosophy, a new tradition, a new religion, and they're heartbroken. And they wonder, what about my legacy? What's going to become of our people if our children don't honor and respect our traditions anymore? What if my children go astray?
What if my children go astray? What if they choose another way? What happens to our family tree? What happens to my legacy? What if my children leave the fold? Who will be with me when I'm old? What of our faith and history? Will they become quaint memories? Oh God, my God, I have loved you faithfully. Oh my God, why have you forsaken me?
What if my parents disowned me? What if I challenge destiny? What happens to our family tree? What happens to my legacy? What if my parents wail and cry unless I'm willing to comply to serve their faith and history? Why do they have this hold on me? Oh mother, oh father, I have loved you faithfully. Mother, father, have you forsaken me?
What if there is no one to cry or say the Kaddish when I die? Who will be there to light the flame when there's no one to bear my name?
What if I cannot bring them home when I have children of my own? What of my own integrity if there's no freedom to be me?
What if my children go
What if my parents
one hand, she has raised her daughter to love and respect every person she meets, to see God's face in everyone. But now, suddenly, her daughter wants to marry out of the tribe. She doesn't like it. And she's in a terrible conflict because on the one hand, she's been teaching a way of life, and now when it comes to her in her own home, she doesn't like it, and she feels terrible, and what does she do? She wants to go to her rabbi and ask him, because he's a wise man, and he'll know what to do. Ask the Rebbe.
Ask the Rebbe, he will know. But the Rebbe isn't certain. First I con, and then I pro. Ask the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe, he will know. But this Rebbe needs a Rebbe to advise him how to go. Or if they swear, it's not clear. For every 2 Jews, 3 points of view. Or if they swear, it's not clear. There's no simple answer for a Jew, 'cause there are endless permutations and myriad explanations with likely implications for each interpretation. And unknown complications to perplexing situations and many variations for every disputation. Isn't certain, first I'm con and then I'm pro. Ask the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe, he will know. But this Rebbe needs a Rebbe to advise him how to go. What they smear is not clear. For every 2 Jews, 3 points of view. What they smear, it's not clear. There's no simple answer for a Jew. And immense your vocation to give up your expectation for perfect explanation. And your well-learned consummation is a welcome indication that you learn to live with paradox and doubt. You have stripped the forest of their trees. You have robbed the coral from the seas. You have compromised the honeybees. blame, bear the shame, it's not a game. You have hungry children left to feed, you consume resources you don't need, and you justify a global greed. You're to blame, bear the shame, it's not a game. What have you done to the earth, my friend? Where did you go wrong? What will your life be worth, my friends, when the soul cannot sing her sweet song? What have you done to your souls, my friends? You cannot make things whole, my friends, if you are living just for today.
What's the cost of this little onslaught? What's the lot of the cattle that we slaughtered just to keep on top? Lost all the errors of the wild and free. Now we face the brink of the next Pleistocene, and the scene is grim. The odds of our survival run from low to slim. And you have reached the forest for recordings and a mortgage. Actually, those who came before us raise their voices like a chorus. Consider the rivers that once flowed here. Now it's just concrete and corner stores here. We used to set feet on the sticks and stones. Now they clothe them in plastic and hide in our homes. We used to roam, we didn't need to go wrong. You wanted the factory, the ground provided the coals. All came at a cost. Humanity, what we lost. Turned little trees into gold to make into building blocks.
If you are living just for today, just for today,
You're blamed, you're in shame. That they don't see you. You're blamed, you're in shame. It's not a game. It's not a game.
After I wrote the first song, What If When You Awoke, I shared it with many friends, including a Baha'i friend of mine from Canada. And Neil wrote to me, he said, Ruth, it's a fantastic song, but what about the Baha'is? You didn't mention us. I have mentioned Hindus, Muslims, Jehovah's Witnesses, Christians. I've mentioned at least 20 religions, but I hadn't mentioned the Baha'is. And we had already decided we were going to have 10 songs in the album. Casey and I had been working on that for a few years. And I called him, and it was really at the end we had to produce it in time for an Interfaith conference. And I said, Casey, I have to write one more song. And he said, there's no time, Ruth. You'd have to write it tonight. And I said, well, I have to do it because there'll be too many people that will be saying, well, what about me? Right? And then I thought, well, I did a little research and I discovered there are 4,273 religions. And I couldn't write about all of them, but maybe I could have a few more, right? And so what do when you need to write a song? You walk the streets. And so I walked the street, and suddenly out tumbled the first line in a very deep and upset voice. What about the Rastafarians, the Brahma Kumaris, and Baha'i? Ladies and gentlemen, let's make room at the table.
What about the Rastafarians, Brahma Kumaris, and Baha'i? Did I mention Unitarians? They are part of the Interfaith pie. What about the Lobo New Thought, the Shinto and the Druze? Don't forget Zoroastrians. They're even older than the Jews. Let's make room at the table. We can always add one more plate. That's the entry fee is goodwill. Even if you come late, let's make room at the table. We can stretch it if need be. Until everyone is seated at the table of humanity. Let's make room until everyone is seated. Let's make room. Should I mention of Henrias, Yazidi, and Caroline? Nazis, Sufis, Calvinists, they are part of the Interfaith pie. There are Mennonites and Hebrews, Black Hebrews and Zulus, Rosicrucians, Scientologists, the Moonies and Voodoo. Let's make room at the table. We can always add one more plate. The entry fee is goodwill. Even if you come late, let's make room at the table. We can stretch it if need be. Until everyone is seated at the table of humanity. Let's make room until everyone is seated. Oh, let's make room at the table, embracing the peripheries. Just imagine us together, stretching to
Our program is almost over. We have one more song. But I want to take this moment before we share the last song with you to thank Craig again, deeply, sincerely, for saying to me, Ruth, I give you Pico Union Project for one night. Bring the best people and share your music. Thank you so much, Craig. Thank again, Casey, the Girdas. I don't have to say much. You already heard what this man can do. I want to thank the brilliant cast, all the vocalists, and you'll have a chance to see all of us together at the end, but I want to take this moment to say thank you now to them and to the exquisite dancers from Beverly Hills High School. One thing is sure, no matter where this music will be played and performed, it will be intergenerational, I guarantee you that. And do you know why? Because they're going to teach us what we need to learn. So give them an applause. So I'm going to introduce start first, we're going to see a short video, then you're going to hear the last song, and then I'm going to invite everybody in the cast to come on stage. Enjoy.
Malika, there's a favorite poem that we both love from Rumi.
Beyond the field of wrongdoing and right doing,
There is a field.
and I'll meet
Meet
you
you
there.
there. We'll meet you there.
We'll meet you there. We will look for you. Inshallah.
Be'ezrat Hashem. Go and make peace.
Please.
There's a field out there beyond all right and wrong. There's a field out there of peaceful which we long. There's a field out there where you and I belong. Go, come, meet me there. There's a field out there beyond our history. There's a field out there beyond our memory. There's a field out there till now we couldn't see. Come, meet me there. Come, don't delay. This is the promise of a new day. Come, right this way. A promise of a brand new day. There's a field out there where beliefs do not divide. There's a field out there where we can view all sides. There's a field out there where loves are all begun. Come, oh come, meet me there. There's a field out
what happened after that is that I hired a dramaturg to help me write the libretto, which is both the dialogue and has the lyrics. But before I did it, I went to musical boot camp, and I was told by the instructor that the only way for me to write a successful musical was to put aside all my music and not even refer to it, and just to write a terrific story. And that traumatized me so much because, well, I had gone in the total opposite direction of the way most musicals happen. People have a story and then they write music to the story. I came with all the songs and I had to develop a story, and I was being told not to refer to the music. And that put me, actually, I started trying to do it. And one day she said to me, look, some of your songs you'll be able to use, some you won't use, and some you'll have to write new songs. And I said to her, well, how am I going to do that? And she didn't understand my question, because I had written 30 songs, but I kept thinking that all of it came through Source and that I was the vehicle and I was transmitting them. And I didn't know whether I could write my own songs just by needing a song. And so I stopped working on the project for a while. A lot of people don't know this, but I had imposter syndrome, and I felt that the only way was to gracefully withdraw from the arena, until one day I made up my mind that listen, all those songs came from Source, but I was the one then transmitted them. I was the medium, I was the vehicle. I can do this because that well of creativity is eternal. It's out there. It was there. It is there. It will be there. And I can dip into it and I can write a song. And to prove that, I sat down and wrote a song on the spot in 15 minutes called A Song of Peace.
Oh, peace, where are you hiding? Come out and show your face. Oh, peace, silently chiding our wayward human race. Our world is torn and violent, great pain and grief prevail. Oh, peace, be not you silent, come forth and lift your veil. A song of peace is what we need, a song of peace in word and deed, a song of peace to light our way, a song of peace to sing today, a song of peace so clear and pure, a song of peace that will endure, a song of peace our hopes unfurled, a song of peace that fills the world. Oh, peace, we've lost our bearing, we're stranded out at sea. Until we show some caring, we'll repeat our history. We beg you to come closer, embrace us all day long. Oh, peace, be our composer and help us find our song. A song of peace is what we need, a song of peace in word and deed, a song of peace to light our way, a song of peace to sing today, a song of peace so clear and pure, a song of peace that will endure, a song of peace, our hopes unfurled, a song of peace that fills the world, a song of peace that fills the world.
That song proved to me that we all have capabilities that we deny. We all have talents that when they freeze, instead of saying, I'll be able to get back to this, I'm just temporarily indisposed and I can't write it right now, we say, oh, I have to wait for the muse, or we rearrange our pencils. Well, nobody uses pencils anymore, so we scroll in our phone, or we look for interesting videos on YouTube instead of getting to the subject because we're afraid we can't produce. And what I taught myself, and I tell everybody, is it's always there. You just have to be willing to say to yourself, I can do this, and then to dip into the well. So once you know what they say about how do you get to Carnegie Hall? They say practice, practice, practice. You all know that joke? Well, in the writing musical, the word that they repeat over and over again and drill in you is revision, revision, revision. So every time I hired someone else, an expert, to read the script, I'd have to go back and make revisions. And then I'd pass to someone else and new revisions. And I asked a friend of mine who had also written a musical, how many revisions did she have? And she said, so far, 87. So what I had to do next was I had to find a way to hear it. And so I went to the same place where I had gone to musical boot camp, and we put together 20 actors who read through the whole script, and we played some of the songs. And after that, people responded to them. People told us what they liked. People gave testimonials. People shared what it evoked in them. And it was very, very meaningful.
There's a field out there beyond all right and wrong. There's a field out there of peace for which we long. There's a field out there where you and I belong. Come, oh come, meet me there.
There will be no interfaith wedding of Tamar and Stargazer in this center or anywhere.
As to marrying Tamar, I have asked the ancestors, and they agree with me.
Who are you to ask the ancestors? I will do ceremony with the fire, and I will tell you their decision.
I found him.
Who?
Tamar's perfect groom.
My perfect what? This is not the time for this.
Oh, his name is Shlomo.
Yeah, I already have a boyfriend.
She has a boyfriend?
Oh, yes, we were just talking about him.
He's a Native American boy.
He's indigenous. His name is Stargazer, and he's a man.
Of course it's going to work. Look, you come from a tribe. I come from a tribe.
They're both too young and haven't thought this through. And besides, Tamar hasn't finished school yet.
Why don't you tell them the truth, Mother? That I can't marry him because he's not Jewish.
I want your children and your children's children to know who we are and where we came from. The whole of our history is greater than one individual's personal happiness.
Not for me.
Why do they try so hard to keep us far apart? Can't they see we're joined together, heart to heart?
I'd like first first to acknowledge that we walk upon the traditional territories of the Uniqua Nation. It is here, of course, that we hope to build a place to host our expanding humanity under a single roof. A new interfaith center filled with light, love, and understanding.
I have filed a suit. I want the land back.
You're suing the Interfaith group?
Even the white man's greatest courts have sided with us in Oklahoma.
But taking them to court, this could ruin everything for me.
Our people need you, and you need a woman that knows our customs and our tongue.
But that's not what I want. We can't live apart from white people forever. And when I'm the head of this tribe...
I'm not dead yet.
What if my children go astray? What if they choose another way? What happens to our family tree? What happens to my legacy?
I don't want her to marry a non-Jew, but I feel so guilty saying that out loud. Everyone just expects me to take it in my interfaith stride.
Guilty? Well, you shouldn't have to feel guilty about wanting your daughter to marry within your own faith. Catholics feel just as strongly.
I didn't see this coming, Jerry. I always thought of myself as being open-minded, but now that it's my daughter...
Stop, you're letting them win.
They've already won. First your father and now my mother.
They haven't won. We still have a chance to make the world we want.
I'm leaving now. Because I love you.
No. No, stay with me because you love me.
I love Star so much. My heart aches. But I don't want to hurt him.
I can see that.
But I love you too, Mother, and I don't want to hurt you either. But I can't live my life based on your needs.
For I have found God's face in a stranger that I met. We treat each other with honor and respect. He loves the whole earth and cares for all of life. And now that I met the man I love, I want to be his wife.
Please, Mother, if you love me, can't you find it in your heart to give me your blessing?
I want to, but I just can't.
Blessings, we all crave blessings. We need to feel that we are cherished and have won. Blessings, precious blessings, from the day we're born till our last day on
There's one last video I want to show you, because after that, I joined Musical Writers Academy out of Dallas, Fort Worth. And every year they have a festival, and we are allowed to submit songs from our musicals. They select songs that they feel are worthy, and then they ask the local talent in Dallas. They have maybe 40 people there who are all professional singers and actors. And then they ask them to perform songs from the different musicals. Many of them are people from actually Broadway singers as well. They bring in some top talent. And so it's a chance for us to get to see what this will look like on the stage. I'm going to show you the final song, the finale song, sung by a group of 30, 40 people from that Dallas-Fort Worth group. But here's what I want to say about from page to stage. I have several irons in the fire, but I'm still looking for the right place to workshop, which means to refine, iron out wrinkles, and to hear everything, and to do preliminary staging. This is the intermediary process between finishing the script, having all the songs, those of you who are musicians out there, my friend Bonnie Janoska out there, having the piano vocal scores before the orchestration, this is the period where the big shifts get made, scenes get dropped or moved, characters get added or removed. This is the refinement process, and you cannot get onto the big stage without this process. So this is at a very crucial moment. Those of you who've been following with me since its inception, I want to thank you for your support, both your financial, your moral, your spiritual, and your friendly support, because this is a very long process. And trust me, you've got to have faith to be working on something for so long and to know, because it's already manifested, it's already there, it's in the Akashic records, I just have to retrieve it. You know it's going to happen, but you don't always know the steps you have to take to get there. People really want to see themselves on the stage. This is an opportunity in Meet Me There.
Watching you do this for a while now, and it's a marathon, especially. But I've never really known before like how you got this before, and so but that's amazing. So you're having to learn how to, you receive these things, and now you have to figure out, well, how do I assemble it all? If I had to try, my mission, so to speak, was to try and do something like this, I would just be like, I wouldn't even know what the first step would be.
That's how I felt. You're just showing how I felt. I mean, like, how does one create a musical when when you don't grow up in that world, when it's not your profession, when
right.
you do summer stock, on the East Coast.
So if you could, like I know when something is made to go to like a movie or a TV thing, there's a screenplay. Is there something similar like that for a play?
Right. So it's called the libretto.
Okay.
And it's called the libretto because it has the lyrics to all the songs in the text, so that when it comes to the place where the character is singing a song, if it's a duet, an ensemble, whatever it is, it says very clearly the name of the song, the number of the song, how many people are in it. And it has all the lyrics, and it includes, sometimes there's dialogue in the middle of lyrics where a song, the music goes down and somebody says something, the lyrics come back up. So all that has to be incorporated into a script, which if I were to send it across to the other side of the world with the piano vocals, which is the score for each song, where it includes the, not the orchestration, but just for piano and for whoever's singing, and samples they call them demos of the songs, which you saw the recording studio earlier. So those songs, those demos are sent with the piano vocals and the script, and that tells you everything you need to know of how to put it on. It's my magnificent obsession, and I do a lot of other things in the meantime also to keep my spirits up because I didn't know how to create a musical. Maybe I had nothing to compare it to, but when I'm with my colleagues in the Musical Writers Academy in Texas, and there have been people there who for 15 years have been working on theirs, and the thing that really comforted me was when I found out that Lin-Manuel, who wrote first In the Heights and then Hamilton. Hamilton is probably one of the most viewed musicals in modern times, right? When he had completed In the Heights, he won, I think, a MacArthur Genius Award for it. It was a hit on Broadway, and it still took him, with all the people he already had in place, his choreographer, his director, actors, his homies. It still took him 7 years to get Hamilton onto the stage. So when I heard that, if Lin-Manuel took him 7 years, so if it takes me 10, 11, I'm not going to complain. But you have to have staying power for something like this, because there are ups and downs. And the thing that has helped me and has been the wind beneath my wings is that people love the music, and people always say to me, I can see this on the stage. I love it. It's going to happen. And so even when you yourself have doubts, and I think the thing most common to people of faith is that we all have doubts, even though we have faith. But the thing that really keeps you up is someone near you who's saying, I believe in this, this is going to happen. And so that they help us reclaim our temporary loss of faith, because we need to see it through someone else's eyes. I was watching people's faces during the song, the performances, and everybody laughed and smiled at the exact same time. There is something going on here that not just was it divinely inspired, but I think that from a theatrical point of view, is electric, and really people get it. And that's why this was delivered for mainstream. It's not just for fringe people in the interfaith community. It's for everyday people who now have questions about their children going astray, about people having 2 or sometimes 3 faiths that they follow simultaneously. How is that possible? Of the environment, and what is the connection between the environment and having faith, and what are our responsibilities as custodians, and also making room at the table. You can't imagine after that song.
What about the Rastafarians, Mama Kamaris, and Baha'i? Did I mention Unitarians? We're all part of the Interfaith. Why?
Did you hear how many religions I included? After that song was performed at the Parliament of the World's Religions in Toronto, I had people waiting by my booth, the booth for the musical that I had arranged to have so I could sell CDs and etc. I had people waiting by my booth to talk to me from the Mennonite community, from the Quaker community, from the Scientology community, saying, thank you so much for including us. Nobody ever mentions us. And you start to understand that people who are living in the periphery religiously or are not recognized or are thought about as being less important or less significant to the whole tapestry of our religious experience, they don't get mentioned, and they have this little burden or this stone in their pocket, which makes them feel less than, So the lyrics of that song are very clear.
Let's make room at the table. We can always add one more place.
Let's make
The entry fee is goodwill, even if you come late.
And that really says it all. If you have goodwill, we can always find a plate for you at the table.
I just love what you're doing. Thank you for your good heart and good spirit.
Thank you. I always love having you. Whenever you're around, I feel the world is better.
Likewise. And this has been a very uplifting experience.
Well, are you going to be with us in the theater on opening night, Don? Are you going to be there?
Yeah,
your best suit. You're wearing a fantastic tie. I can see it now. Right?
Probably should dress formal.
Right. Okay. Anybody else?
This is just the quintessential. It came so from your heart. And the talent that you, as you expressed along the way, that in a way you didn't even really know you had.
Your comment about how you had to dig deeper, and you at first didn't think you could do it, and then you discovered that creativity is there, and one can draw upon it. It's not you can and you can't. There is no writer's block. I mean, we think we have that, but in reality, if we set the intention to do it, which you've been doing for a long time with this production, you were brilliant in sharing that spiritual awakening and awareness, and that you move through it. And that same tenacity, that same spiritual knowing that you have to get this out, and you do.
Ruthie, it's Chaviva.
Chaviva has been one of my supporters in this project, and I'm very grateful to you. And she's a woman who's still so active, still teaching swimming. Can I tell them how old you are?
90 this October.
She has spent the last 35 years traveling around and giving lectures on Chagall's life, on his painting, his relevance to so many things, including a show-stopping lecture on the similarities between Elvis Presley and Marc Chagall. So Vivian, thank you for coming by.
Yeah, well, we can learn one thing from a Chagall who did 10,000 artworks. No matter what the world situation was, pogroms, anti-Semitism, the Bolsheviks, the Russian Revolution, 2 world wars, he never stopped bringing hope, peace, reconciliation, and love in all of his artworks. And I feel that this musical is doing what Chagall did in his artwork, is bringing people hope, peace, reconciliation, and love. And I'm very, very proud to have known Chagall, and I'm very, very proud to have know you, Ruthie.
Oh, thank you so much, Chaviva. I really appreciate your being here and all your support.
This is who we are and who